you're all still here after that gospel. I think there'd be a part of us, at least there's a part of me, that when I hear Jesus proclaim what he does today, it makes me take a little bit of a step back and say, well, do I really want to buy into this whole Christian life of faith thing? Because I think most of us want to be rich and filled and laugh and have everyone speak well of us and praise us, have the house and the car we dream of, have all the other facets of our lives in place. I wouldn't mind losing about 50 pounds, having a little bit more hair on my head. All these facets of life that we yearn for if only we were in control. And so often we think that a good life, a meaningful life, a fulfilling life is one in which I call the shots. And the things that I want to happen will happen how I want them, when I want them, where I want them. And yet Jesus says to us, "Blessed are you who are poor, who are hungry, who weep. Blessed are you when people hate you." Who wants to sign up for that? It's like the best recruiting tool ever. Come here now and be poor and hungry and have people hate you, and then you will know that you are citizens of the kingdom of God. Well, I imagine we're all still here after the proclamation of that gospel because as much as it may be contradictory to what we want, we know that it speaks so profoundly to the truth that we have known in our lives. That in those moments where we've had rich blessings and great riches and everything's fallen in place just as we had hoped and desired, those moments where we begin to trust more in ourselves and in the capacities of others and forget that we are sustained and held by a loving God who made us. Those are the moments where we so often lose track of where our hearts are truly being led. We may get everything we had imagined and still feel somehow empty and unfulfilled. And then there's the moments where life has brought to us crosses that we never would have asked for, never could have imagined, and would have done anything not to have to endure. And yet in those moments of darkness and desperation and uncertainty and trial and tribulation, in our own lives, we found a new glimpse of something that God has offered us. A new opportunity to be sustained, for our roots to grow, to be that tree that has tapped into the stream, that we know that even when the hot days come or the drought befalls the land, that our leaves can still stay green. Looking around our church today, I see so many faces of journeys I've come to know. So many trials I've been able to witness. So many testimonies of God's profound grace and mercy alive in our midst. I think that is why we are here. Because we know we have been touched and have been called. And that there's something to life far beyond the things that we want when we want them. The notion of our gospel today, I think, hit me in a new way this last Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is really not a very fun day when you're celibate. I did not get any chocolates or any giant teddy bears. What can you do? But I was trying to be conscientious of our 3 young Norbertines who Valentine's Day is always challenging. But when you're like in your early 20s and celibate, it's particularly challenging. So I said, I want to do something really nice for them. So I go and, well, had I had the time, I would have driven to Deacon Keith's lovely chocolate shop, but it's way too far for me to get to in the time frame I had, so I went to Old Town, got some chocolates, and I wanted to give them a nice little bag, write them a nice little note. And so then I had to go to the Walgreens to get the bag to put the chocolates in. And because I tend to procrastinate a lot on everything, this is happening at like 3 in the afternoon on Valentine's Day. And so I'm in the Walgreens, and I'm hurrying around trying to find the least expensive and least frilly little bags to put this chocolate in. And so I'm completely consumed with my task at hand. And a man that I've never seen before walks up to me. He's carrying a baby in a carrier. And he says, "Are you a priest?" I said, "Yes." Now, I get that question a lot. With the white habit, people think all sorts of strange things. So I'm usually pleased when they at least got the fact that I was a priest. So at first I'm relieved, because I'm like, he doesn't think I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. He doesn't think I'm from Star Wars. It's all going to be okay. So my guard goes down. I'm thinking, oh, he needs something from me. Because, you never know what people are going to want from you when you're a minister. So I'm just braced for the unexpected. So he says to me, "Did you babysit my kid?" And I think, this is a peculiar question. And I'm thinking, I don't even know this man. Why would he trust me with his child? So I said, "I'm sorry, sir, I really don't babysit, but," I said, "if you call the parish office, we have a list of people that we use for different events and things when we need childcare, and I'm sure they'd be happy to share with you, people we know that are trusted and qualified babysitters." Then he gets a little more aggressive, so I get more confused. He's like, "Come on, man, why don't you want to watch my kid?" I'm like, I kind of don't know what to say other than I just can't watch your kid. Then, finally, he gets to his point. And he says, "Oh, I get it. You don't want to watch my kid because the temptation would be too great. You'd want to hurt them." I was not expecting that. So I took a step back, and he walked away. And I just kind of stood there. And I wanted to be anywhere in the world but there at that moment. I wanted to be anyone but a priest at that moment. I wanted to be wearing anything but my religious habit at that moment. But nonetheless, there I was, going about my day trying to do something kind and charitable for those I love. And somehow my very presence inspired this ire, this judgment, and this rejection from someone who knew nothing about me. And it's not to say that our church, though full of grace in the presence of Christ's body on earth, is not made up of the broken people Christ himself came to call. It's not to deny that there have been many in our church that have hurt others. It's not to say that there was no truth in his perception or judgment of what could be. But it was in that moment that I also realized that as much as I wanted to disappear, to become invisible and to vanish, without my presence in that moment, there would have been no opportunity to witness the truth to something different in the life and the presence of God's people, in the mission that we are given in our baptism to proclaim God's kingdom, and the opportunity to foster new hope and new vision amidst a body that is suffering, that is struggling, and that yet is still reaching for hope. I think it's a challenge to all of us to recognize that the presence of our lives as those called by Christ, and often the paradoxes that we see, in the fact that we often come to know him most profoundly in those moments where things don't line up as we had hoped and imagined. And yet there is where his grace transforms all the more profoundly. means that when we come to live out this mandate that we see in the gospel, to carry the crosses that we ourselves did not choose yet have come into our lives, that we do so in solidarity with one another. That our opportunity to be a witness to the other is also our call to lift each other. And that's the challenge we are given today. And so we may look around our church, we may see the seemingly endless outpouring of news stories and scandals. We may see the challenge facing our archdiocese as we go through this process of bankruptcy. We may see all of those things, and at this moment we may think, more than ever, I don't want to touch that. What is this about? Why am I a member of this community? Why am I part of this body? It seems like everything is broken everywhere. And then we remember in the presence of our own brokenness what God has done. That collectively what God can and will do through us as His body. And then we realize that now more than ever, ourselves, our community, and our world is in need of a sign of God's love and His mercy, His generosity and His goodness. The fact that all we have is not because of ourselves, but because every moment of our life is sustained by the one who nourishes us through that flowing stream, if our roots are only deep enough. Today as a parish we begin the annual Catholic Appeal. Those of you who are registered parishioners already got all your stuff in the mail. I'm sure you've happily set it on a counter somewhere and think I'll get to it at some point. I encourage you to go home and look at it at some point. Next weekend you'll have the opportunity, if you haven't done so already, to fill out your pledge here during Mass. But it's an opportunity for us as a community of faith to support the ministries of the Church far beyond ourselves. Far beyond the things that we have been blessed with here at Holy Rosary. We have beautiful facilities, we have talented staff, we have wonderful programs, we have dedicated parishioners. But these blessings aren't true in all facets of the diocese. Many of our parishes are small and are struggling and depend greatly on the sorts of resources that they are given by the Archdiocese. And our ability to form our young people, and our ability to form new ministers, to care for those in the hospitals, to do outreach to prisoners and those who are blind, to walk with our immigrant communities. All of the rich ministries of the Archdiocese of Santa Fe that give a sign of Christ's presence and love in the midst of such a broken and suffering world, that's what the ACA supports. And so as much as we ask that you continue to give generously, of course, to our parish community here and to all the other charities that you are moved to be a part of, we ask you to reflect prayerfully on what your gift and support of our diocesan ministries are as well. Meeting our ACA goal hasn't been a challenge for us as a parish in recent years, but it's something only a small number of us actually participate in. And the challenge of talking about money is never fun. It's the least favorite thing I want to do and come out here and tell you all about. But I think there's something we miss so often when we talk about what it is to give. Because we think money is just somehow some sort of profane thing. We like to make it. We don't really like people telling us how to use it. But the sharing of resources, whatever it is, however we discern to do so, is really an invitation to recognize the mutual dependency we have on God. The gifts we've been given, and as a statement of trust, that if we share those forth, participate in some movement, some ministry, some life beyond ourselves, that we recognize that we truly do together lift the crosses and challenges of our lives. That we participate in God's mission, in His movement, as an act of gratitude, an act of confidence, and an act of trust. So as you consider how you give, where you give, not just financially, but in your whole life, how you witness to that hope that we have in God, I challenge you not to think about it in terms of money, but to think about it in terms of the mutual sharing that you engage in your family, in your community, and as one body of Christ.